Hello there, and welcome to my idiosyncratic introduction to Scrivener. My name is Catherine Pratt, and there is my email address in case you want to get in touch with me. I am kpradt@gc.cuny.edu. I call this an idiosyncratic introduction because it is what I have learned about using Scrivener, and I learned to use Scrivener by using Scrivener. I didn't take a class or have a seminar. I just needed a program that gave me a little more than Microsoft Word, and I found it and I started to use it. I am a writer. I'm a novelist, not a scholar, although I am an historical novelist. So I do an enormous amount of research, and the functions of Scrivener that allow me to keep research and writing in the same place have been immensely valuable to me, and I hope they will be for you as well. I will say that Scrivener does more than I ever needed to do, and different things than I ever needed to do. That will probably be true of you too. Every time I open Scrivener, well, maybe almost every time, I find something new that it can do. Not all of those things are useful to me, but you may find as you go along that there are all kinds of things that I didn't tell you that Scrivener can do that you think are fantastic. And I hope that's true. So I'm going to start with just a few facts about, where and how. This is where you go to get Scrivener, literatureandlatte.com, which sounds like a really pretentious coffee shop, but is the name of the company that produces Scrivener. I put the price in there because CUNY does not have a relationship with Literature and Latte, so you're not going to find yourself able to get a discount through CUNY or a license through CUNY. There is an educational discount. It's not a huge discount, but it's not a huge outlay for a program that does as much as this program does. The current version that is out is different for the PC and for the Mac, which is a little bit annoying, but Scrivener 2 is out for PC. Scrivener 3 is out for the Mac. I was asked a question, what's the difference between Scrivener for PC, Scrivener for Mac? As far as I know, there isn't an enormous difference. I have used Scrivener for OS X. Not a lot, but I have used it, and I did not notice any major differences. What I'm going to talk about and the screens I'm going to show you will be from Scrivener 2, simply because that's the sort of the lowest common denominator. What Scrivener 2 can do, we can be pretty sure Scrivener 3 can do. I have not used Scrivener 3 myself. I don't think it's enormously different from Scrivener 2. It may have some added functionalities. It may be a little more user-friendly in certain places. The other thing that you're going to find at Literature and Latte are the support documents and the support community. It has a pretty good user manual. You can actually access the user manual from inside Scrivener, which is nice. There is also, in addition to that, a pretty big knowledge base, which is hosted at Literature and Latte, and there is also a community in which there are forums. A lot of people use this program, and the really good thing about that is it means that any problem that you've had, somebody else has also probably had, and with a little bit of searching, you could probably find an answer to almost any question that you have. So this question, what is Scrivener? What makes it different from other word processing programs? I'm assuming you know that it is a writing tool, or you would not be here. But it's not just a writing tool. It's not a simple writing tool. It's two things in the same place that almost always are not put together. It's a way to organize your research materials, and it's a word processor. Now, what's the advantage of that, of having both of those things in the same place? Well, it means that you can have everything in not just the same directory, not just the same computer, not just the same hard drive, but the same program. So you can keep your research, your notes, your drafts, your timelines, your charts, your outlines, photos, video, websites, everything, almost anything you can think of, you can put inside the Scrivener program. And once you have all that stuff together, you can be looking at it while you are writing your manuscript. I don't know of another program that does quite what Scrivener does. And the great advantage of it is that you don't just have your research materials or your notes or your outline open at the same time as your manuscript. You have them open in the same program, and you can have them open in the same window, which is a really different experience from transferring back and forth from one program to another. It's much less clunky. You don't accidentally close programs. You don't lose track of what's where, or how to get to the thing that you need. It's all in the same place. Now, what Scrivener isn't is a really exceptionally good or smooth example of any of the things that it does. So it's a PDF viewer. It's not a great PDF viewer. It's a photo viewer. It's not a great photo viewer. You can't edit those documents much, if at all, within Scrivener. It's a word processor, but it's a simple word processor. And it is not intended to be the tool with which you make a final manuscript to share. It's a sandbox. It's a place where you can throw everything together and bring out a draft. Scrivener does two big categories of things. It's a place where you can write a document and format it. And then it's also a place where you can collect and organize information. And what we're going to cover is how this works and what it looks like. You can import text files from other programs, including Microsoft Word, Google Docs, LibreOffice. You can bring in RTF files that you wrote on, Notepad. There are a bunch of different ways that you can look at what you've got once you've got it. You can look, as I said, you can look at two things at the same time, which is really valuable, and I will show you how to do that. There are some formatting options. They're not hugely extensive, and if you are used to and comfortable in a Microsoft Word kind of environment in which you can make anything look like anything, Scrivener's functionality will be a little bit of a disappointment. But again, that's not what Scrivener is for. You can create footnotes and endnotes. You can then, when you are done, you can export a manuscript. You can export a part of a manuscript. You can export a scene or a subsection. You can compile the entire thing. Now, the other important thing that it does, collecting and organizing information. So you can put everything you've got in files and folders within Scrivener, and you can arrange them pretty much any way that you want them. Bring material in from other sources, piles of photos or PDFs, full complete PDFs with articles or book chapters or anything else. And then once you've got it within Scrivener, and it will be within Scrivener, Scrivener will actually make a copy of whatever it is that you bring in. Once it's in there, you can tag it, which is something that I think we're all pretty familiar with. So the things are pretty easy to find. But the thing that it does that I think is the most powerful and original thing that it does is that you can create a collection. And what a collection is a number of files. It can be, and they can be anything, which are all grouped in, you can think of it as a folder. So when you open that folder, you can have, for instance, the manuscript chapter you're working on, and as many source material articles as you think you need, or documents. You can have your, images, maps, graphs, graphics, data visualizations. Everything that pertains to that chapter can be in that collection. If something pertains to more than one chapter, it can be in multiple collections. The great advantage of that is you open the collection, everything is there that you need for that chapter. You don't have to go digging around in a file system or in 3 different programs to find the thing that you want to look at. Here's another thing that Zotero doesn't do. It doesn't manage citations. It won't format the citations for you. You can't automatically create a bibliography. That's still the province of something like Zotero or RefWorks or Mendeley or any of the many, many other sorts of programs. Some of them work with Scrivener or claim that they work with Scrivener. I have not had great luck in integrating. I use Zotero, and I have not quite gotten it to play nicely with Scrivener. But it can be done. And again, Scrivener will export a perfectly usable document file with which, that you can work with to create your own bibliography. That's about as much as I can tell you about Scrivener without showing you Scrivener. So let's move on and do some of that. I'll bring the program up and we will walk through some of the things it does. Now, because Scrivener is a project-based program, you can't have Scrivener open without having a document open. The very first time that you open Scrivener, you're going to get basically this window. It's going to ask you to create a project. Microsoft Word you can have running, and it will, you'll just see the menu at the top. But I saw somebody asking about moving the end product into a Word document. We will definitely cover that. We will, where you compile it into a Word document at the end. So this is what they have a few templates. The templates are of varying use. I haven't used the script writing. I'm not a script writer. Their miscellaneous are kind of funny. A recipe collection and a persuasive lecture. You can also make and save your own templates if you need to do that. I'm going to open just a new nonfiction. Okay, nonfiction with subheads. Sure. I have to name it before. And all right, so the first thing it gives me is a little note about the nonfiction format. And you can read through this. It's a little bit helpful. Then it takes you immediately to the manuscript. It starts you out with one chapter. This chapter is a folder. Inside the folder, it has a section. Inside the section, there's a subsection. That might be the way you want to do everything. That might not. You can duplicate your subsections so that you have several. You can duplicate your chapters so that you have a couple of them. It also automatically generates an endnotes file for you. These can all be separate files. Scrivener is a sandbox, right? Somebody wants to annotate that? No, I don't think. None of these are intended to be a publishable, shareable manuscript. This is all just notes on a board, basically. They do also provide this front matter, which they put after the manuscript. I'm not really sure why. With a little, I have not personally found their front matter really ever to be helpful. I usually delete it. Speaking of which, if I delete something up here, you'll note that it disappears immediately, right? I mean, it goes into the trash immediately, which might be a little alarming if you think, if you're actually working on something and it's full of text and you accidentally hit that and it vanishes. But it does just go into the trash. And you have to do a separate action to empty the trash. So I can just haul that back there. That's not a big deal. I will empty this trash. And this time it warns me. Let me open another new project. I'm going to open a blank one. This is what ample blank. This is what I usually do. It has nothing except the manuscript and then a research folder. And it's important to have both the manuscript and the research folder because there are many things that you can't import into a manuscript. You can only import them into the research folder. The manuscript is really for things you write and things you tack onto the things you write. But in the research folder, you can put images, video, web pages, all kinds of stuff. I am not going to keep this open. In fact, I don't really want to keep this one open either. You can put audio files in the research folder as well. Yes. And you can link them to pieces of your manuscript. but you can't actually put an audio file in your manuscript, to my knowledge. All right, I'm going to close the sample project as well and go to this. I started this as a as an example project. So it's got a few things in it already. I created a couple of chapters. This chapter is done with two different kinds of part openers. All right, so here I have a part opener, and then I divided these subsections might be, chapters or anything. The second part I did a little bit differently. I didn't use a part opener. I labeled the folder as a part, and then here are the three parts. And you'll find that you're just gonna play with it, and you'll find out what you'll figure out what works for your vision of your manuscript. It's a fairly standard kind of file and folder setup. I don't think it's all that confusing. Again, there's this endnote section which you can delete it if you want to, but you probably don't want to if you're going to have any footnotes. Okay, and I will get we'll get to footnotes in a second. I want to show you how to import text, because most of us at this point will have something already written in some other format, and you want to bring it into Scrivener. There are a couple of possible ways to do it. I'm going to import a file, and my file is, I have a Scrivener file with source material in it. I'm just going to, this is okay. Yes. When I'm looking at the chapter, as you can see, then I'm getting this sort of like table of contents. To look at this that I just imported, I'm gonna click on the title of that file, which is now not a file, but part of this bigger project. Okay, that was easy. What if I have format? Oops. Import. I'm going to import a different file with format. Okay, now this one is formatted, and it retains the format, but not the styles. Okay, if that makes sense. In my Microsoft Word, this is a style. It is a chapter title. This is a style. It's a sub. But here, the formatting is there. But I can't do the things with the styles that you can do in Microsoft Word, where you change the style and it changes it all the way through, because it hasn't maintained that association. And here's another slightly annoying thing. It has not split the manuscript in the way that I would have wanted it to, right? It's just, it imported everything, even though I have this set up with a page break and a new, chapter opening. There are a couple of different ways to fix that. You can split the file once it gets into Scrivener, or you can ask Scrivener to split the file. But if you ask Scrivener to split the file, just import it again and say import and split, you're going to have to put some sort of separator into the original file so that Scrivener knows where to split it. I have tried using the word chapter. It works, sort of, but if you have if that's a word that you might use more than once in your, in the text itself, then that probably isn't so awesome. Import file does not exist. What? What? Oh, I see. Yeah. There we go. There we go. Now I've imported it again, right? Or did I? Maybe I didn't. Oh, okay, it came in as a subsection of that because I had this highlighted. But now I've got chapter 1 and chapter 2 because I split it at the word chapter. That was a moment, like, I didn't need to worry about that because the whole thing is just dummy type. It's not a big deal, but in order to get that to work with a more extensive manuscript in which you don't want to rely on not having the word chapter elsewhere in the document, you basically have to go through and put in a separator yourself. Oh, that's a good question about the cost. It is a one-time license. They do make you pay if they update, it's usually not a free update, but it's usually a significantly lower cost for somebody if you have like if you have Scrivener 2, when they update to Scrivener 3, it will be you'll get a discount. Okay. Obviously my chat has gone away again, so.
Oh, it's gone away. Okay. Catherine, do you want me to read out a couple of the questions that are in the chat? Because I was actually
sure. What's happening is I'm seeing the questions when they come in, but I don't get the whole list. So, okay.
Yeah. So I just sent you a little doc with all the questions, so you can look at it. But
thank you.
We can go through them, a few of them one by one. So some of the more recent questions were, is it a one-time cost or is it recurring?
It is a one-time cost. It's not a subscription.
Okay, perfect.
So far.
Great. And then another question was, is it possible to annotate PDF files within Scrivener?
Not so well, no. Like I said, Scrivener does a lot of things sort of okay. The individual parts, it's not fantastic at any one thing. So yeah, you probably are going to want to annotate PDFs and things in another program. You can make notes on a file, but for instance, can you see over here? I have comments. Let's go to the research questions, okay? Because the stuff about formatting the text, that's really it's like the least of Scrivener, right? Is how you format text in Scrivener. Although there are just a couple of things I want to show you, and that is, okay, so here I have, okay, I'm going to have my dummy type. Now I'm going to split the screen, because this is super handy, I think, that I can look at two files at the same time. I can split it that way, I can split it that way. Now, at the moment, I'm looking at the same file, but all I have to do is click into here and click up there, and now I'm looking at two different things. Okay, so I could be looking at an outline and a chapter, or, notes and a chapter, or anything that's handy. And okay, so I have this one under the notes. So just like if you wanted to have an outline, you can have it. Now they have, again, these are folders, even though they don't have folder icons, that's basically what they are. They're folders. If those are helpful for you, great. If it's not, you can delete them. You can change the icons. That is format. It's not super. I do want to show you something. The research folder is quite different. All of these other folders are just for text files. Basically, within a text file, you can, import a picture into, your text file. But your research folder is where you can put things that really aren't text, that don't have text content. So once again, I'm going to import some stuff. I have this source material folder set up. I'm just going to yeah, sure. Oh, I did already import this and this, so I won't do that. But I'm gonna, yeah. Okay, so now I have all of this stuff in my research file. And like I said, I can now, I think I can just drag and drop if I want to put this in there. Yep. Oh, look, picture of my cat. If I want to drop this, I just go over here to the no split. I don't remember which file I put that in. Yes, okay, here we go. And then I can go back to the split if I want. Yes.
Catherine, I have two little questions that came up in the chat that I think are kind of just good to answer. One of them, I'll read it, was I have no experience with Scrivener, but how can you show how you would have a page of notes or an outline up besides next to a working document? So just to show people how it works.
Yeah, that's this little guy right here. So here's my working document. I'm going to split the screen. Now it originally just gives me a copy of my working document, but I'm going to click in here, make this window active, back here, bring up my outline or notes or whatever. And now I've got them together, which I think is one of the neater things about Scrivener as a writing tool. There's one other really kind of, and then to make that go away, I'm going to click into the document I want to keep, and then click on the other icon. Okay. Didn't seem to actually keep the document I wanted it to keep. Anyway, oh, I think I know why. I think I clicked the wrong icon. Because if I had this up, yeah, I need to come over here and click this no split. There's one other kind of neat thing that it does, and that is that there's a view that isolates what you're working on, and that is the full screen. Okay. If I do this now, there are just a few little tools I can find back here. I have the background kind of faded out, so I can, but I can also just blank that out. Can everybody see that? That now I'm just looking at a scroll of my text on a black background. I find that really handy because I'm super easily distracted, as you may have noticed through this conversation. To get out of that, you just escape. One other thing I want to talk about briefly, because I know this is something that, that scholars really need to be able to do, footnotes and endnotes. Okay, so I have a footnote. I have a footnote pane over here. You can make this pane other things. You can make it the notes, the keywords, but I'm going to make it the comments and footnotes. I can add a footnote this way. No, I guess this is I added a comment. So,
Um,
okay.
Catherine,
Yes?
you had a really quick question about full screen versus the split screen, and kind of folks just asking about, maybe you can just demo real quick the transition between those two again.
Sure. Sure. I'm gonna split this. I'll split this screen. The question of the split screen in the black background, that is a great one because I have to say I have never tried to do that. Let's see. I'm going to put over here, I'm going to put the Scrivener manual, user manual, which is really good, actually, by the way. The Scrivener user manual is very good. Now, can I do the view? No, it won't let me enter the full screen now. So, no, I guess you can't. You can only do the split screen if you're also looking at all of the other stuff. By the way, I didn't go over the Scrivener terminology. They call this whole thing the binder, which is, I don't know, as good, I guess as good a word as any.
Another question that folks had in the chat, and I'm just kind of combining a few clusters of questions in this sense. Two people were asking, could you kind of like talk about what's the difference between this and Microsoft Word in a nutshell? Why would you choose to write in Scrivener as opposed to just use it to collect all of your supporting documentation and notes? Kind of maybe talk about your experience, or just what you kind of, yeah.
To me, it's the convenience of being able to look at source material and what I'm writing in the same program, not just on the same screen. Because you can do it with Microsoft Word if you like juggle your apps around and size your windows, you can do that, but you can't have them, you know, active in the same program. So, but if I want to look at, okay, say this is the chapter I'm writing. This is, okay, this is a map I want to be looking at the same time. I want to be, you know, walking people through this. I can do that in Scrivener. I can see them not just you know, nearby, but side by side. Does that help, I guess? And then I can, you know, zoom.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's really helpful just for context. And I think another question that people had, which builds off of that, was should you open separate projects for each chapter? So I think that's a really interesting kind of conceptual. How do you really use this optimally? So maybe just if you could speak to that, and if there's any storage issues in terms of like putting everything in one chapter, or just in general, or sorry, in one project, or how that goes.
Your storage issues are going to be, it's just going to be limited by your hardware. All right. If you have, you know, only 10 gigs available and you have, you know, I have, you know, 10,000 documents that you're looking at, you might, that might be really tough. You might need to, you know, you might really slow the program down, or, you know, make it impossible. If you have, you know, plenty of hard drive space, there's no real limit to everything, to how big a project can get. You know, depending on how complicated your structure is, it may just not be, it might just be clunky to have it all up here in the binder and looking at, I mean, you certainly can do multiple projects in Scrivener. I mean, for multiple chapters. There's nothing that prevents you from doing that. I've never had a project that was that unwieldy that I felt like I need to have separate chapters. Now, something that you will find every time you close your project, I'll just do it right now. Scrivener, oh, of course, stop the application sharing so you don't see this. Darn. Scrivener makes a backup. I'm just going to go back to sharing Scrivener, I guess. And so if you're backing up, a gigantic amount of stuff every time, then yeah, you're going to run out of storage space pretty quickly. You can always, delete old backups. You can, I'm trying to think if you can exclude parts of your document from the backups. I mean, one thing that is quite important about Scrivener is that when you pull something in to Scrivener, the original source file, no matter what you do to it within Scrivener, it doesn't change your original source file at all. It's making a copy.
Great, that's really helpful. And kind of a similar question that someone had much earlier was, is there any way to move the end product into a Word document without losing the formatting? So I'm not sure if they meant just for the text or for the notes, but could you speak about that functioning between Scrivener and any other WordPress?
That is a good question, because like I said, Scrivener, I'm going to go back to sharing my Scrivener screen and get rid of this guy. It does not claim to be like a presentation tool, right? It's not going to try to make a great looking manuscript for you. It will make a manuscript. If I want to, and I'll show you how we can do that right now. Now, like I said, the footnotes, did I create any footnotes in here? Again, you can make footnotes, blah, blah, blah. You can also make footnotes inline. This is a very quick and dirty demonstration, but because for some weird reason, they consider the inline footnotes to be a format. I don't know, but okay, so now this is a kind of strange, but now, and so when we export or print, all the notes will go there. But let me show you how the export works. Okay, so the manuscript, if I'm going to do the whole manuscript, I just click up here, and I'm including chapter 1, chapter 2, and the endnotes. I'm not including any of this stuff. Okay, I'm not including any of the source material, the notes, anything. I go up to File, and no, it's not. Exporting and compiling are different here, but this is what you want to do. You want to compile. Okay, there are different formats. I haven't played around with them very much because I always want it to export things in the format that I've got, right? You can export it as a Word document, as a PDF, a few different file formats. But let's just do that. I'm going to compile it. I'm going to call it compiled. Let me put it back in that Scrivener folder. Okay, that was super quick because there's hardly anything in it. Now, I'm going to stop this share. I'm going to open that document and we'll see how well it came through. Now I have to go back to there and share it. Okay, now you're looking at the compiled document. And so right away there's some stuff that's a little weird. I have chapter 1 in the text, but it also exports a chapter 1. And here are the the formatting. I didn't do much formatting in there, as you remember. Now the footnotes are footnotes.
This is great, and thank you for explaining the exporting. I think that's really helpful because it shows that kind of functionality. And I wanted to kind of loop that into a question someone had, and it's kind of going back a little bit, but their question was, I think, more about versions within Scrivener. So their question is, so the entire project is saved, and within the project, the original files are saved as exact copies, question mark. Is there no loss in resolution or file size? So I think what they're asking is, when Scrivener saves these drafts, are they then in there distinct files that you can go back to, or how does that work?
Right. Okay, I might not have made that totally clear. What I meant was your original files in whatever form they were. If you had a folder full of PDFs or a folder full of JPEGs, and you brought them into Scrivener, you've made copies in Scrivener, right? That original file folder is not going to be touched again. Right? So those all still exist as they were, and you can always go back and re-import if something happens. Within Scrivener, that's a good question because it has never been important to me whether the particular file, like for instance, image file, degraded or let's test it. That's easy enough, I think. I'm going to go back into Scrivener.
Sure.
And share my Scrivener again.
Yeah. I think
Oops, that's not my one.
after
That's it.
this, and while you kind of set that up, I was just going to talk about another question that folks had, which I think is kind of the overview. A few people were saying, what do you think has been kind of the most effective workflow for you in working with the program? What's an effective processual approach that you can take in regards to working with this system? So I think that adds off the previous question of there's all these different texts and folders,
Right.
and just kind of how do you manage that? So,
The
yeah, so.
the best thing that I have found, I mean, I love to be able to see this structure on this just on the side, and that in itself is kind of worth it to me. You can do that in Microsoft Word too, I guess. I find it more tedious and annoying because you have to set up chapter headings and stuff to make it work like that in Microsoft Word. I should also mention I'm a fiction writer, not a nonfiction writer. So the things that are in my research pile, I'm writing historical fiction, so I do a ton of research. But I have things in my research file, lots of maps, lots of timelines, character sketches, both word sketches and like actual drawings. And I do like to be able to pull those up side by side when I'm when I'm writing a particular scene. I can pull up a couple of character sketches. Another thing, and actually now I want to, this is another big feature of Scrivener, which I think is super important. You can group things together. You can group, chapters or pieces of chapters and pieces of research, or you can just group pieces of research in what Scrivener calls collections. And I'll demonstrate that for you, because it is really pretty cool once you get used to doing it. When you're in this binder, you can search within this binder in a number of different ways, and the search can return, therefore just the parts of your manuscripts that you're looking for. Now, one thing, for instance, if I ask for just the pieces of my manuscript that are done, I have both of these set with a status done. And so now this is going to come up. This search result is, Scrivener would call this a collection. But you can't actually do anything with it other than look at the search results. If I go back to the binder, this icon right here switches me from looking at it just as the binder, and now I'm going to look at it as collections. The search results are always one collection, and this always just gives you whatever your last search result was. Go back to the binder now. I can add a collection, and suppose I call that collection photos. I can take the lions out of there, and when I go into the binder, oh gosh, how am I going to do this? I'm going to take all these, can I just drag them to photos? Yes. Now I've got all of this stuff. It doesn't want to drag my multiples. Why is that? Yeah, it does. There it goes. Okay, so now I've got all of this stuff, this multiple selection, in my photos binder. I'm sorry, in my photos collection. A third way of doing things in a collection, which I think is pretty great, there's a way you can save a search result. So, right, I don't want to save that search result. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to, yes, I'm going to tag this one. And there's a bunch of different ways I can give it a label. I can change those labels. The status, like here's where I could set it to be done or not done. But if I create custom metadata, I'm going to edit that. I'm going to add, okay. I'm going to add a category, which is geography. All right. Now, in this, I'm going to say this is the geography tag associated with that is NYC. I can associate that NYC tag with this as well. I can put it in, well, I can pretend that's about New York City, okay? And now I can do a search in that custom metadata for NYC. And now I've pulled up everything that's tagged with that. And there is a way. I know it's there here, that I can save that. Come on, where are you? Save that as a collection. Oh, it's up here. Here, there we go. Save search as collection. I'm going to call it NYC, sure. And now I've got this NYC collection. What's cool about this is it's not static. If I go back here and I decide this is NYC and this is NYC. When I go back to my collection, now it's got all of that stuff in it.
Nice.
Yeah. I find that really helpful because, you know, I have information about different locations, different historical periods associated with different characters, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I think it's easy to imagine how that could ease some of the complexity in keeping track.
Yeah. And you can put different folders in the research, under the research folder, and you can always organize stuff that way if that makes more sense to you or additional sense to you.
Yeah, no, that's great. I wanted to just pivot really quickly to a kind of, basics, Scrivener basics question that two people had asked. So I'm going to read their question. Is there something like a plain text feature so that you can write text without worrying about formatting? If so, would it then be best to try to format in Scrivener or export it all and then format in Word? I'm a poor typist and formatting slows me down.
Yeah. Well, then Scrivener might be great for you because Scrivener affords you very, very few formatting options, right? There are this many presets, okay? As far as I know, you cannot make more. Maybe you can, but so there's a very, very limited number of preset formats you can create. As you type, there's not very much you can do. Yeah, you can bold and italic and underline, but this is it really. It's very bare bones as a formatting word processor.
So there is not going to be that much difference, right, when you export a document?
Right. When you export a document, it's, let's go. Can I share something else? Can I share? Let's go back to that Microsoft Word compiled document. Okay. Yeah, it's really just a couple of things, and this and it's all, if you see, it didn't export it as styles. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. This isn't a specific kind of heading. It is just courier new bold, flush left. This is just courier new 12 point slightly indented. That's it. Now, if I feel fancy and I want to go back in Microsoft Word and change, and do the formatting there, that's the place to do it because Microsoft Word has so many more options. Hanging indents and millions of fonts and bullets and numbered lists and as many different styles as you can think of and put in. That's not Scrivener. You're not doing that in Scrivener.
Thank you.
I hope that's the answer.
That's very helpful.
Okay.
That was two people's questions. So, yeah, and then there was a couple. I mean, I think the functionality is really the good stuff with Scrivener. So I think it's great to kind of that you went through a lot of that. I'm going to repivot back just so we do answer them 2 questions from a while ago about backing up the project. So I think there was, questions, what is the best way to back up your project? Can you back up using Time Machine on a Mac? So yeah, do you want to speak to how the backup works, or if you really do that, or if you kind of trust Scrivener?
Let's see. I mean, Time Machine will back up anything, right? So yes, I mean the Time Machine is a whole different set of uh, commands, and it's uh, and because the Scrivener files are just files, whatever your backup program is will back them up. When I said that Scrivener automatically creates a backup, I have not actually discovered that backup to be particularly useful, except in kind of cluttering up my hard drive, honestly. Theoretically, I suppose if I had, if I went in and like messed a bunch of stuff up, or deleted things I didn't mean to delete, I could then restore the Scrivener project from the Scrivener backup. I've never needed to do that.
Cool, thank you. And can you save audio files or put audio files into a research folder within Scrivener? I feel like you probably could.
Yeah, you can put audio files, you can even put video files into the research folder. You can't do much with them. Again, like the your research files are there to be accessed for your own edification, I guess. You aren't going to be able to like edit a piece of video, or aside from maybe resizing a photo, you're not going to edit a photo in there. You're not going to annotate a PDF.
Great.
Oh, here's a question I think that came up. Could you put in a video that's on a Facebook post? Yes, I think you could. I mean, you could, obviously, if you have such software, you can record video that's on a Facebook post and make a file that's, that you can keep locally. But you can also put websites into your research folder. So that's, I think, how you would do that. You would just put the URL into the research folder, and then it would play within Scrivener.
Great. Yeah, so we've gotten through a lot of the questions that were actually in the chat. If there's someone who feels that your question was not addressed, please let us know. I've been kind of going through and looking closely to see that we're getting through all of those. Yeah, let's see. We had one question that I didn't really fully understand it, but I think I'll just ask it anyway and see if that person wants to jump in. It was, do you have any recommendations for, instead of having source material and a working document, perhaps a program designed towards working from notes and a working document? So it seemed like you could do that in Scrivener.
You certainly could do that in Scrivener. I mean, if you made, let's, I could import, a note file that wasn't, not an outline, but I have nothing on this computer, honestly. So it would have to be something else from here. Yeah, let's just import this compiled manuscript and pretend it's pretend it's my notes. All right. And again, so now I could be looking at that while I'm also, oh, here's something that I didn't talk about, and that is the different ways that you can look at your material. This is obviously you're just viewing the document or your sub-document titles, and then you can do all this. You can put a synopsis, you can add a label, whatever. Then there's the corkboard. I've never had that much use for the corkboard, honestly, but it does. You can move things around on the corkboard. You can, reorder and things like that on the corkboard. This they call scrivenings, and you're actually looking at everything in this chapter in one big long document, rather than just the pieces. I'm looking at everything. Anyway, let's suppose I also want to have up. I'm going to vertically split that. Well, that's interesting. That it split it. Here's my pretend notes along with my pretend manuscript. So yeah, you could do that here.
No, that's great. Thank you for kind of walking through, because I think it's nice to see it happening. Yeah, this person also wanted to know if there were any other software or apps that you were aware of that are designed more of that purpose, just because Scrivener does have a price tag, just something that comes to mind,
The only other thing that I use, honestly, is like a very, very stripped down word processor called Focuswriter. And that is, it's like a word processor on the level of, the of the Scrivener word processor, but it doesn't have any of the other stuff. And the only really awesome thing about that one for me was that it does this. It goes into this focused view.
Yeah, my hunch is that there are so many programs out there. So
yeah, that probably exists. I don't know what it. I don't know what it would be.
Okay, so unfortunately, yeah, TBD. But thank you for that question. And just going back a few questions. Someone asked when I compile, can I leave some of the text inside of a folder off?
Yes, you can actually. You can. Let me go back to the view. You can just. I can just say. I'm just using the shift key, and well, actually, I don't want to use the shift key. Let me use the control key so that I'm just getting, this and this and this. I can just compile those, right? This should just compile those selections. And I'm just going to quickly, let's move over into Microsoft Word and open that up and see. Did it? Yeah, yeah. Those are. Is it just the selections? Maybe it isn't.
But you think it is possible? You've done it before?
It is possible. It is possible to. Yeah. Yeah. No, this for whatever reason it. Yeah. It is possible.
Okay.
Rather than like watching me screw around, I will just figure that out and send you the information on that.
Great. So yeah, thank you so much, Catherine, for this really deep dive into Scrivener, and I think it like any program, has so much different functionality. So I hope this was helpful. I saw a lot of appreciative comments in the chat.
I should actually point out that there's a lot in Scrivener that that I didn't talk about. Every time I open it up and play around, I find stuff that I didn't know about before. It's got a lot of stuff going on.
Yes, this
I would really strongly recommend, actually, if you're interested in this at all, you know, download. There's a 30-day trial, so download that and go through this interactive tutorial. That's what I did the first time I opened Scrivener up, and it teaches you a ton, and it sort of introduces you to a lot of things that that Scrivener can do that I didn't even touch.
Great. That sounds like a really nice next steps for everyone. So yeah, I think unless you have any closing comments, Catherine, it looks like we don't have any more questions from the chat. We went through a lot of things. Someone says, I live for the corkboard function.
Oh, good.
So I think everyone has some really different and interesting uses of Scrivener, and I think it's really just kind of see your personalized use of it for your project, because it's always, like anything, really individual. But yeah, if anyone has any further questions, I assume they can reach out to you, Catherine.
Absolutely. Let me maybe. Well, everybody should actually have my email address, yes, because it was in.
Yeah, I can drop
in
in chat.
Well, here, I'll just put I'll put it in the chat.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, everyone, and
edu, obviously, but
yeah, feel free to ping Catherine with any questions or reactions, and we hope this is helpful. And yeah, just feel free to be in touch. The library is absolutely willing to support.